Okay. So, how did you guys get connected?
The gloriness of Craigslist. We actually met, Matt and I had both been in other projects. He came out from Chicago in May of last year, and I've been in Seattle for almost 7 years now, but 6 years at the time. And previous band I was with broke up, so I put an ad on Craigslist looking for other musicians, and he answered. And I got a slew of other responses, and they were just mostly awful. And then his came in, and his music was actually really good, and I was like, okay, cool. So we met, and I was working on a song on piano, and I played it for him, and then immediately we just started, you know, going back and forth on ideas for the song, and it was just kind of worked right away. And then, yeah, we've been together now only about 9 months. So.
Great. So, Matt, you have a blog called Mid by Northwest, and so you've gotten to get plugged in and see the scene in Seattle. What is it like versus Chicago?
It's really, really different, and the experience of kind of the blog was, I started the blog right when I moved, and that was a great way to kind of just start getting sense and start to have some really cool conversations with musicians and people that I wanted to get to know. And then the combination of that, but it's mostly been through us and just since we started playing together and the people that we met through playing together in Seattle. But it's just, there's this interconnectedness and this community, like it's, at this point it kind of sounds like a buzzword, but it's really legitimate. And it's exactly what I was looking for. In Chicago, in my experience, I played in like more of an upbeat rock band, and you know, we all like met in college and moved to Chicago to go for it, and it always felt kind of us against the world. And a lot of bands felt that way, whereas just kind of cutthroat isn't the right word. It was isolated. All the bands felt very isolated from each other, and it took some really active organizing to try to breach those gaps. And so I helped start this organization called the Chicago Roots Collective. That was 10 bands that worked together and put on shows. And so when I moved to Seattle, I was like, oh, I'm gonna, you know, bring that model, and I'm gonna, you know, I'll build that in Seattle from my experience. And I was like, oh, everyone's just friends. like that kind of structure to become friends wasn't necessary. And having cultural hubs like the Conor Byrne Open Mic and just all the buzz that is happening around the bands that are getting big and leaving Seattle, or just, you know, they're on tour all the time, that it didn't leave with them. And that's been really good. We're all kind of making our own thing and making it together, as opposed to everyone just kind of trying to propel themselves at the expense of others.
Mm. What's, question for both of you, what's one song lyric that you wish you would have written?
Song lyric?
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh, that's so... Well, this song that we were just talking about earlier, The River, by Audra May, that whole song I wish I would have written, because it's just the idea behind it, and just the one line in it is, I should be, or if I was living, I should be living for the light like a good girl should, because a good girl should. So just kind of the idea about, that song's got a lot of different meanings, I think, but for what I think it's about, she's talking about kind of having a belief in God and a religion type thing. I just think it's a really unique way to say it, and kind of exactly how I feel. Mm. That whole song, I just love the lyrics.
Great.
One of my songwriting idols is definitely Josh Ritter. Mm-hmm. And so there's a number of songs that he's written that there's a number of lines in each song that kind of slay me every time. The one that is probably the most, and that we've listened to a couple times on the trip and talked about, is there's a song called Temptation of Adam, off his penultimate record at this point. And it's this whole kind of post-apocalyptic story, or it's this love story about two people in a bunker, like a nuclear warhead bunker. And it's not actually, you know, it's the more you listen and the more you read the lyrics and things, it's about so much more than that, and it's really about kind of that kind of relationship, and a kind of relationship that can only exist in certain circumstances. And it talks about, you know, being tempted to end everything else so that this could be. And it's one of those songs where every 6 months or every year I listen to it and I hear something different, and there's something else that resonates. And having that kind of longevity in terms of a song, just the deepness of a song lyrically, is just like, it's awesome.
Well, Well, thank you guys both for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
Of course.
It's fun.
Yeah, this is great.